Welcome to Season 3 of Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Tanner Anderson, Associate Dean of the College of Graduate and Professional Studies at Longwood University. This season, we're exploring one powerful idea, the power of people. Behind every success story, every bold step, and every meaningful career is someone who made an impact. Join us as we share stories of mentorship, leadership, and community, because when people invest in people, powerful things happen. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. As you know, this season, we're exploring one powerful theme, the power of people, how relationships, mentors, and communities shape who we become and how we serve others. Today's guest truly embodies that idea. Madison Lewis is a double Longwood alumna, earning her bachelor's degree in 2019 and her master's degree in reading, literacy, and learning in 2020. She's a classroom teacher, literacy leader, mentor to future educators, and someone whose story brings us full circle. Madison, welcome to the podcast.
I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. And so, Madison, we're going to just jump right in because you have so many connections to Longwood, and I can't wait to explore them. You came to Longwood for one degree, and then, you came back again, and it happens, right? Like, it happens to the best of us.
Absolutely.
You are a double alumna.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you take us
Proudly.
back to your, yes, ma'am. Can you take us back to your first journey to Longwood as an undergraduate student, and what initially drew you here?
I knew that Longwood was at the top of my list when I was very young. I'm talking like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Most of my favorite teachers growing up were Longwood alumna, so I automatically put it at the top of my list. I've always wanted to be a teacher. And then I came and I toured here and I found out about the community here and the traditions and all the opportunities I would have access to, and it sealed the deal.
Oh my gosh. And so you mentioned lots of folks along the way, along your path that came to Longwood, and particularly Linda Moore, your third grade teacher, had a huge impact on you and your journey to Longwood. So tell me a little bit about that.
I had a tremendously difficult second grade year. I was just in a learning environment that wasn't a good fit for me. I was waking up with stomach aches every morning and begging not to go to school, and that was not typical for me. So at the end of that year, my parents went to the administration at my school, and they asked what could be done to make sure that I did not have a second year in a row like that. And the headmaster at my little independent school said one thing to my parents: she needs Linda Moore. And they put me in her class, and the rest is history. She is everything that anyone could ever want in a teacher. She was left-handed, so she called me her left-hand man. She gave me lots of extra responsibilities in the classroom, and she made me feel seen and understood and loved, and she reignited that interest in learning and being at school and confidence in myself, which was still minimal at 9 years old, but she sparked it a little bit again.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful to her.
Oh my gosh, what a powerful testimony, and what a brilliant, beautiful person to have such an impact on such a young mind. And all these years later, you still have that same powerful and passion of talking about her and her impact on your pathway. So, oh my gosh. I think back to, so my kiddo's 12, and I think back to, times when he struggled and times when you try to find someone to make all of that difference. And I always talk about the power of those relationships. And you don't think that small children develop those relationships, but sometimes those are the very things that sustain you and pull you through. And it sounds like Miss Moore did that for you. So tell me a little bit about those relationships. So you mentioned Miss Moore. I'm sure that there were other teachers along the way, since you said you had so many who went to Longwood in particular. Tell me a little bit more about how these teachers, these people, end up changing your trajectory for good.
Absolutely. Where do I start? Miss Moore was definitely the one that has persisted. Her impact still, it carries through to today. So she passed away right before I started my freshman year of high school. And her favorite thing in the whole world was butterflies. I have a butterfly bracelet that I wear, and anytime I see a butterfly, I think of her. And she, even now, so many years later, she's been gone now longer than I knew her, and She still sends me butterflies at the most random moments. There was one time, gosh, when I came home from her funeral, a butterfly came in my garage and like danced around me. And during undergrad graduation at Longwood, a butterfly flew right past me in the middle of the keynote address and then hovered for just a minute too long.
You knew she was there.
Yes, I did. Just a minute too long at the word congratulations on the banner on Wheeler Lawn. It's just crazy things like that. Even this story is going to get you.
Okay.
Okay. My first year teaching was 2020. COVID regulations, everything was crazy. Because of those regulations, the teacher who had the classroom that I was moving into before me could not pack up her things and take them with her. So I had to pack her things first before I could move mine in. I was packing her things. I reached into a cubby, had a stack of books, was trying to determine which ones belonged to her, which ones belonged to our school, opened one of them, and right in the cover, the front cover of one of those books was Miss Moore's signature. In my first classroom, 2 hours away from where she worked and lived her whole 40-year career, completely out of the blue, of all the schools, all the books, all the classrooms. It was mine, my first classroom. So her impact definitely carries through. Miss Barnes, my 6th grade teacher, she really showed me that my opinion mattered and my ideas mattered even as a young child. And that gave me confidence that has carried me through for years and years. I 100% agree with what you said about relationships and connections and inspiration mattering to very young children. I think those lay the foundation. Sometimes I think they matter more than some of the connections we make later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I got chills.
I know. The more I think about how unbelievable that was to have her signature, and she spells her name differently. It's Lynda.
Okay.
So it was undeniably her.
It was her. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Okay, so another contributing factor for you applying to Longwood, in addition to all these amazing people who kind of showed you what it was and what it was all about, you actually got a little taste of Longwood when you came to Girls State. So can you tell me a little bit about that experience? And you mentioned that you thought once you stepped on campus, like it felt like this was home. So tell me a little bit about that experience and its impact on you.
Girls State was so much fun. Being able to stay for a full week, a year before I was even coming to college, it was the perfect taste to eliminate some of the fears and the worries about going off and can I do this on my own. One of the things that stuck out to me the most when I was here that summer was how compact our campus is and how you can get pretty much anywhere you need to be without having to cross any streets. And I loved how that made it feel like its own little haven and its own little place, and you never have to leave it if you don't want to.
Or you just keep coming back.
That's right.
For different reasons.
Time and time again.
All right. So think about those first few days of your time on campus when you did get a chance to move in and you started going to classes and meeting people. What stands out most now, right? Like in hindsight, what stands out the most about that experience now?
What a whirlwind. That first month is so unlike anything you've ever experienced before. I was lucky enough to move in a week early with the Honors College. So we had our honors retreat the week before the first week of classes. And I had so many experiences. There were so many activities that week that really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I think that set me up for success for the rest of the first semester. The friends, the people that I met, the professors that I met then definitely stand out. Mary Zell Galen is still one of my best friends. We met that first week. So,
awesome. Yeah. Awesome. And so you also became a Longwood ambassador, which has a special place in my heart.
Indeed.
AmFam. And so you got to be that person sort of responsible for helping others. So people who were touring, potentially coming to campus, and also people on campus, and helping them to decide and know that Longwood was right for them. So how important do you think, I guess your experience first, but also telling the story of Longwood became in that role?
Storytelling is the most important part. There was a certain short story that I told at the end of every one of my tours. I always said that my high school graduating class was 29 people. 20 of the 29 of us had been together since kindergarten. And it really felt like I was leaving all of my cousins or my siblings behind. I was the
Sure.
only one who chose Longwood. But as soon as I got here through the Honors College and through the ambassadors and even my classes, I met so many people and made so many connections so quickly. And it really started to feel like I belonged here. Even out of 5,000 people, I belonged here. So the last thing I said on my tours was, if you're looking for home away from home and you're looking for family away from family, Longwood is where you need to be.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I usually got a couple tears from that one, usually from the
From
moms.
parents, yeah.
But I had so many people come up to me over the years after that and say, I was on your tour and you shared about the friends that you made and the groups that you were in and the connections here and the connections you had with the faculty. And that's what made me pick this school. And I'm so glad I did. And thank you for sharing your experience with me. So storytelling is the most important
Oh my
part.
gosh. And you are a tremendous storyteller.
I try.
Okay, so in addition to ambassadors, you jumped into a lot of leadership opportunities very early.
I did.
As it happens, right? When
It
you're
does.
involved and you're connected, it happens. So you served as president of the Honors Student Association, a lot of different things, but in that in particular, how did you, in that chance to lead peers, really help develop that leadership management long before you ever had a classroom of students? You had peers you were leading. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. The Honor Student Association was and is a very small organization on campus. And sometimes the smaller the organization, the more like a classroom it can be. Lots of very strong opinions and lots of ideas and viewpoints floating around. And the smaller you are, the closer you get, so the more comfortable you feel sharing those things.
Sure.
So leading a group like that was really unique because it takes finesse to lead through making decisions that aren't going to make everybody happy while still making sure that everybody who's contributing is feeling heard and respected and appreciated and like their role still matters even when the decisions that have to be made aren't necessarily going the way that they wanted them to.
Sure.
So those skills are directly transferable into leading a classroom for sure.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. Okay, so in addition to the Honor Student Association, you had the privilege, the pleasure of being here on campus in 2016 when the vice presidential debates came here to Longwood. And so it really put Longwood on the map. You know, there were obviously lots of news and social media and different outlets here, right here in Farmville, Virginia. And so what did that feel like as a student? I'm interested in hearing. And then as a student, just being part of something so much bigger than yourself or even just the Longwood that you knew until that point.
It was unreal. I remember our campus feeling like it was overtaken for pretty much that whole year. There were some people who felt a little frustrated about that from time to time, but ultimately, I think what prevailed was the pride, knowing that we were on that national stage and that such a small school in Farmville, Virginia, of all places, was going to host something like this was really cool. I volunteered for the event. I stayed on campus instead of going home, and I was a ticketed guest host. I know. So we got to basically hospitality for a lot of the people that were coming to be in the live audience. And my volunteer coordinator came around to my volunteer group about 10 minutes before they went live with the debate and handed all of us tickets as a surprise. And I remember she looked at us, handed us the tickets, and said, "We're live in 10, run."
Oh my gosh.
So we ran to our seats and we got to be part of the live audience.
That's so
I mean, that's a
cool.
once in a lifetime opportunity.
Absolutely.
Who else gets to say that they got to do something like that, especially on a campus as small as ours.
Yeah, that's
So-
incredible.
And then hearing Longwood mentioned on Saturday Night Live
Yes.
after that was really neat.
Norwood?
Yes,
Yes,
Norwood.
Longwood. No, that was incredible. And I know from the outside and everyone here in the community, it was a tremendous opportunity for
Yes.
Longwood. But to be a student and to be involved, especially in that way.
Absolutely.
And to be surprised with tickets, that's so neat. That's incredible.
We all entered the pool and so few people got tickets.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that Longwood put such an emphasis on giving as many tickets to students as they could.
Yes, yeah.
I know that there were lots of other universities who did not prioritize their students getting tickets as much as Longwood did, but even then there were still so few to go around. So it was extra exciting.
And I'll say at that time I was still in pre-K-12 education. It was a year before I came here. And I think Longwood did a tremendous job with a lot of professional development, but also just opportunities for students to come ahead of the debate and learn about it and learn about sort of citizen leadership and action. And so, because that's what we do here at Longwood. But to be a student in the middle of all of it, I don't know.
It was wild.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Very cool.
Okay, so I think back to years and years ago when I wasn't quite sure that I wanted to be a middle school educator. I wanted to teach high school, and many people have heard this story. I wanted my Robin Williams moment, and I wanted Dead Poets Society, British literature, like the whole shebang. And my first job was middle school English, 8th grade, and I was terrified. And yet it was my very favorite of all. And I went back to be a middle school principal. Like I love those little middle school hot messes. They are my very favorite people. But you mentioned, let me back up a little bit more. So partnership. So I want to talk to you a little bit about partnership because I remember when you were an undergraduate student and I was working in educational leadership and was helping out with partnership. And so the placements of pre-service teachers, out in the field, sometimes the very first time you're really like in it and doing the dang thing.
Yes.
And so you mentioned by means of other leadership experiences that you felt like a middle school shock.
I did indeed.
When you walked into partnership. And so I'm wondering what those beautiful little hormonal hot messes, like, what did they do for you? What did they teach you? Because I believe that they probably taught you a lot.
Yeah.
But what did they do to help you realize that you had been called to teach all the children?
Yes.
Bless their souls.
Oh my goodness. What a great group that was. I was in Fluvanna in a 5th grade classroom in a math class nonetheless, which is not my forte. I like math, but not as much as reading and the other things. Middle schoolers thrive on humor and sarcasm.
They do.
And let me say this. My kindergartners think I am hilarious. Middle schoolers, not so much. Not so much. They don't get my sense of humor. We don't connect in that way. This group that I was placed with, God bless them, were so gentle with me. They did not laugh at my jokes. They did not think I was funny at all, but they supported me and they encouraged me as I learned alongside them in their own way. I think what made that work was that even though I couldn't connect with them with their humor, I still made sure or tried to make sure that they felt seen and understood. The same things that I was looking for when I was a kid. Middle schoolers are the same as younger children and adults even. All of us want to feel seen and understood and appreciated and valued. And I think middle school is one of those times when you maybe don't feel as seen and understood.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the worst times for that in your whole life.
Yeah.
And I really tried to make sure that even though I couldn't understand their pop culture references or their jokes or really anything else about the culture that is middle school, I did see them and I tried to understand them and I asked questions and they filled me in.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they were delighted to fill you
They
in.
were delighted to fill me in. Sometimes too much.
I'm sure. I love that. Okay. All right. So also while you were an undergraduate, so we've talked a little bit about how you worked through the Honor Student Association. You had some leadership here through the vice presidential debate. Partnership was a big part of your, I guess, pre-service teacher upbringing. But you were also working on Oktoberfest programming here on campus. And Oktoberfest is a special Longwood tradition, one of the best. I will agree with that. And so what did organizing events and bringing people together teach you about engagement and community building?
So with the Oktoberfest programming, I was working on trying to figure out how to keep Dr. Jordan's bonfire alive.
Oh,
That was
yes.
the first year that Dr. Jordan was not going to be able to participate in the bonfire and tell his Longwood ghost stories and all of the stories that everyone had come to love so dearly. And we knew that it was a very real possibility that if we did not pick the right people to contribute to that event and to speak at that event might fizzle. If this one wasn't good, people probably weren't going to continue to come.
Right.
So that really was one of the first times that I had to think really hard about what the other people want to hear. I think so often when we are given a chance to speak, we think so much more about what we want to say than what it is that our audience needs to get from us and how to say things in a way that helps them buy in to the content that we're trying to convey. And that was challenging. Thankfully, Larry Robertson, who is amazing, really helped with that a lot. I went to his office and I was nearly in tears, I'm sure. I was like, help me save this.
Yeah.
Please don't let this tradition die. What are we going to do? And he took a lot of the lead with speaking at that event. And to my knowledge, it's still going on and it's still a beloved tradition. So thank you, Larry Robertson.
Thank you, Larry Robertson, for all of his hard work in keeping our traditions alive. Yes, he is amazing.
Indeed.
All right. So I guess one other component of your undergrad career that we haven't really talked about is really stepping outside of your comfort zone in a study abroad experience. So you've been very open with me and others over the years about how you're nervous, I would say terrified.
An understatement.
To study abroad. So can you take us back to the moment when you realized that you were actually going to get on a plane and in getting on that plane, you were going to go abroad and do amazing things and learn incredible things? What emotions were running through you at that time? And why were you so panicked?
Sheer terror sums it up.
Yeah.
It was definitely any synonym for fear would work there. I remember at the very beginning of my honors college experience, there's usually an event every year called the Honors Preview event. And that is usually for rising freshmen. So I was still in high school when I attended that event. And Michelle Castle was an upperclassman who stood in front of us and was talking about the study abroad experiences. And her message to us was essentially, I was afraid and I did it. And if you're afraid, you can do it too. And I got to know Michelle very well over the coming years. And I guarantee you, there's no way that she was as afraid as I was. There's no way anybody was afraid as I was. I went to Dr. Fink, who at that time was in charge of the Honors College, and I begged her not to make me do it. I said, please let me stay in the United States. Let me go to the Yellowstone trip. Let me go to Alaska, anything, but please don't put me on that plane and make me fly across the ocean. But I'm so glad that I did. I think the only thing that actually got me on that plane was my travel companion, Miranda Behringer, had never flown before, and she was freaking out. And I knew that both of us couldn't be freaking out, so one of us
somebody's got to hold it together.
So I was like, well, guess it's me. And that is what did it. The knowing that she couldn't was the only thing that made me. I often say that I enjoyed that trip so much more in retrospect than I did when I was living it.
Well, I guess I was going to say, if you could talk to yourself, to your terrified, insert all the other synonyms, Madison, if you could talk to yourself sitting in the airport, what would you tell her about what was about to happen and all the amazing things that would come from it? What would you tell her now in that hindsight retrospect?
Dr. TA, I could tell her anything. I could tell her about the lasting friendships I made. I could tell her about how much I learned about myself and the world and culture and education and all of the things that I was going to get to see, the tourist attractions that I had the opportunity to enjoy. And nothing would have calmed her
It wouldn't
down.
have mattered.
It would not have mattered. It all would have been
Still
true.
be panicked.
But nothing. She just had to live it. She just had to go through it and experience it and find out that she could.
That's right. And on the other side of it, be able to be thankful and grateful and, all those things that you've learned so much about the culture and the experience, but you can't tell someone who's
grateful.
terrified in that moment what they're going to learn. Okay, so you ended up going to the Netherlands and England.
Yes.
And you were exposed not only to different cultures just broadly, but also different classroom cultures, which would be really important for you going into education. And so what did observing teachers and students in those different spaces teach you about, I guess, trust and building relationships and learning that might look very different from what you had learned until that point?
Absolutely. I am always blown away. So in Europe and primarily in the Netherlands, or maybe I should say especially in the Netherlands, education is, at least early childhood education, is driven by the students so much more than it is here. So here, I think children are often the ones who are placing the trust in the adults in the room to guide them and teach them and show them things. But in the Netherlands in particular, the children are the ones who are being curious and asking questions, and the adults are the ones who are rolling with that. They're putting them in situations where they will learn, where they have opportunities to see new things and be like, oh, what is that? And explore it on their own. The trust is shifting. So instead of the children trusting the adults are trusting the children more to guide the learning. But even more than that, the children are learning to trust themselves. They're learning to try things and not be afraid to. And if mistakes happen, there's somebody around who's going to help me figure it out. And I think
awesome.
that's the big takeaway.
Yeah. But then also being able to take that learning experience back to your own classroom and putting some trust in the students and letting them help inform your process. I think unless you see that in action, you might not necessarily even know that that's something to try. So
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So in addition to all of these incredible things that you have had an experience, I guess being in a classroom in a different country after getting there, finally peeling you out the airport and onto the plane and getting there, you got to learn about how, I guess, there's different teaching styles, of course, but the different ways that students learn, and seeing that trust as a teacher unfold in the arms and the eyes of students, I think is really, really powerful. And going back to that idea, of course, for this season, how there's so much power in the people that you get to know, that you get to guide and mentor, and those who mentor you. So you graduated in 2019, and you mentioned that that was sort of on the brink of COVID. And I don't think anyone knew what was going to happen in 2020. What a nightmare. But you went, instead of jumping straight into the classroom, you went into a master's program.
I did.
Which I love the fact that you just couldn't get enough of Longwood and you wanted to stick around. And so you decided to go with reading, literacy, and learning. And you mentioned earlier, like, no, I'm not, it's not that I don't like math, but I really like reading and literacy a lot better.
I just love literacy.
Which is incredible because we need people like you out there in the field, really jazzing students up and getting them excited about literacy and learning. So what influenced your decision to pursue your master's degree, I guess, at that time, and then also in that content area?
So I knew that I wanted to teach a lower elementary grade.
Bless you.
I also knew that doing that meant that I needed to be really, really good at teaching kids how to read.
Yeah.
The phonics, all of the things, but particularly the phonics. I also knew that the experience was going to come. Experience only comes through practice. The practice was coming, whether I wanted it to or not.
Right.
But I might as well go into that practice with as much knowledge as I could. So I wanted to make sure that I knew as much as I possibly could know about teaching a child how to read before I jumped in and started doing it. So that was one of the big reasons. Dr. Cosby, Dorothy Cosby, was my very first education professor at Longwood my freshman year. And towards the end of that semester, she pulled me into her office or a classroom, and it was after class one day. I really did not know what she was going to tell me or say to me. Was very concerned because she had asked me to stay after. I thought that, I had messed up on an assignment or missed an assignment or something. Anxiety. But she had one of my papers that I had written and was holding it and was flipping through it. And she said, "Have you ever thought about becoming a reading specialist?" And I laughed. I was like, "What? No, I want to be a teacher." And she said, "Well, you can be a teacher, but have you thought about eventually becoming a reading specialist? We have a really good program for that here, the Reading Literacy and Learning Program, on and on." And I kind of dismissed it at the time. I was like, this lady barely knows me. She doesn't know. I'm supposed to be a teacher. And the further I went through undergrad, I started to realize that there was just something that felt like it was missing. And I started learning more about the RLL program and talking to some of the professors for the RLL program and talking to some of my undergrad professors. And I realized that knowledge, that content knowledge that they delve so deeply into in the RLL program was the thing that was missing for me.
Yeah.
So that is what solidified it for me. And then as I went through the RLL program, I started to realize, you know what? Maybe Dr. Cosby wasn't wrong. Maybe I could do this one day. And I'm still not ready to leave the classroom, but I like having that option. I can see myself doing it at some point, maybe.
And you have it in your back pocket.
I
So
do.
whenever that door opens, you're ready to walk right through it.
That's right.
That is incredible. Okay, so you volunteered every Friday in Cumberland County
did.
while completing your master's because you're a saint. I think we need to just put that on record. Just volunteering, and when people desperately, they're like, "Please come and help our children."
It
You're
was
like,
my only day
"I
off
will answer
every
my
week.
call." That's amazing.
Yep.
You are incredible.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you are.
For punishment, maybe?
Maybe. Okay, so how did working alongside practicing educators while you were working on your master's, while you were refining those skills and I guess gleaning all those things that you weren't sure what that missing piece was as you were kind of gleaning all of those pieces, what did it feel like working alongside practicing educators and building that or bridging that gap, right? Like building that sort of structure between being a student and then becoming a professional. Because you got a chance to sort of like practice what you were preaching. So tell me about that.
My cooperating teacher when I student taught, and also the person whose classroom I volunteered in on Fridays, was Jeff Hamilton.
Okay.
And he provided such a wonderful learning space for me. He felt very strongly that his classroom was a place for me to practice and learn and take risks in a low stakes environment where if things didn't go well, someone was there to rescue me, to, throw me the life, what do you call it? The
life preserver.
Life preserver.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will never forget, there was one moment in particular where I wanted to try a behavior management strategy for a child who was struggling. And I was talking with him about it, and he swore that it was not going to work. He said, here, reason X, reason Y, reason Z, these are all the reasons that I don't think it's going to work. But I think it's important that you try it because, number one, I might be wrong. And number two, if it doesn't work, you'll get to feel that in real time and try to adjust. And if you're having trouble with that, I'll be here and help you through it. So I said, okay, let's do it. And it did work, by the way.
The record.
For the record. But that was just one of many opportunities that he gave me. And so I think having those people supporting me and allowing me to try those new things, and again, in that low stakes environment, really just, it made me less afraid to try new things, because I knew that I'd done it before and everything worked out in the end. So it'd probably work next time too.
I don't know. It's just having a safety net underneath you and being able to try things, but also what confidence you had in yourself to be like, no, not only do I want to try it, I think it's going to work. And by God, it did.
But he provided an opportunity where I felt safe to do that.
Exactly. And I think that's amazing. So kudos to him and kudos to you and building that trust. I think, of course, it certainly helps. But that's an amazing story.
I also want to say, though, that was not easy for me.
Yeah.
That was at the end of my student teaching placement. I'm talking 3 months in. I spent the first month and a half, maybe 2 months of that placement really struggling to figure out how to communicate with him. And if it weren't for the experiences that I had when I was younger with people like Miss Moore and Miss Barnes, who showed me that my opinion matters and that it's worthwhile to share it, I might not have felt confident enough to do that. And it took a lot. I felt very brave and also very scared in that moment. But he also helped by allowing it and being like, okay, cool. You're good. It's fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you were talking about just learning new things and doing new things. And so it's not super new anymore, I guess, but the science of reading is something that is certainly on the forefront of a lot of educators' minds, policy and whatnot. And so you sort of stepped into RLL at a time, I think, when everything was really changing, the landscape, right, of literacy, of reading specialist preparation, everything was really kind of changing at that point. So I think for folks who have been teaching for a while or who have been reading specialists for a while, like it might have felt kind of daunting and a little bit overwhelming. But how did learning from your faculty and with peers and having that opportunity to volunteer and sort of be in the thick of it, how did that help really prepare you for a classroom of your own?
Let me tell you, the science of reading movement really was happening in real time while I was in RLL. It was really interesting. I remember most of my literacy heavy classes in undergrad focused on the balanced literacy approach. And when I got into RLL, we started learning more of the structured literacy approach and learning about the science of reading. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking to myself, this contradicts so much of what I just spent the last 4 years learning. What is happening? So then, of course, I'm questioning everything at that point. And I will never forget being in Dr. Wendy Snow's class, and we had finished our unit about balanced literacy, and then we finished our unit about structured literacy, and we were comparing and contrasting them, and she put a little synopsis of each up on the board, and she looked at us and she said, "So which one is right?" And just stood there and waited for someone to answer. And it took a long time before anybody was brave enough to speak up and start that conversation. But I feel so lucky that I was in the thick of it when that was happening, because it was very clear which one made more sense. And I think that was very scary to people who had dedicated their whole careers teaching with a balanced literacy approach or teaching teachers how to teach with a balanced literacy approach. But having the RLL faculty so willing to dive into the most current research and sharing like, hey, this article just came out this week on this. I want all of you to read it. And, you know, they signed us up for a listserv where people were talking about these things and we would get the notifications in our inbox. That was invaluable. But also the RLL cohorts are so small. And my cohort was divided about half and half between soon-to-be teachers and practicing teachers who had come back to further their education. So having those practicing teachers sharing what had been working in their classroom and what had been missing, and, oh, I think this piece of structured literacy we just learned about is a thing that might help in my classroom. It was just perfect. I loved all of that.
So now you work in Cumberland County.
I do.
Surrounded by fellow Lancers, might I add, because I see a flag raising on the regular, which I love. And so you're out there in Cumberland doing your thing, and you not only have had all this incredible experience volunteering and working there for a while, but you are surrounded with incredible people. And you really are. And I really am. I love, hearing from you, seeing what you're doing out there and all the colleagues you have, the work that you all are doing. So tell me a little bit, because you have mentors, you have, folks that you've just built sustaining relationships with over the past several years. So tell me about that. Tell me about being in Cumberland, a classroom teacher, crushing it. This Lancer network continues to surround you. So talk to me about it.
Yes. So before I even say this, I have to preface it. I think my gut reaction a lot of times when I hear a workplace talk about being a family is to roll my eyes a little bit. I think a lot of times leaders want their staff to feel like a family, and it's just not really there, but they're
Yeah.
trying to speak it into existence, so maybe it will be.
Yeah.
But when I say that Cumberland Elementary School is a family, I genuinely mean that we are.
Yeah.
It's not fake. It's not something we're saying. It's real. And I think the shared values that we have, because I mean, you said it earlier, citizen leadership is what Longwood is all about.
All about
And
it.
I think that really sticks. You can't be a Lancer and not have that stick with you. And then to become a teacher and to go into a classroom and a school community, it sticks with you even more. So that unifying goal that we all have of creating these citizen leaders, I think is one of the things that really makes us a family. The shared experiences that we have, the shared language that we have, all of those things really do make my school such a wonderful place to work in.
Well, I love even just across all the social media outlets, like your school family, and I
Yes.
will call it that. They are always posting about the wonderful things that you're doing, the wonderful ways that you're giving back, the community engagement. And
Yes.
I am constantly impressed by our Lancers, you included, just doing that incredible work.
It really matters
it
to the
does.
teachers in our building. It is not something that we're doing for show. It's something we're doing because we believe so deeply that it matters.
It does matter. And I will guarantee you that you will have probably dozens of students who see you as a Linda Brown or
Linda Moore.
Linda Moore. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, Miss Brown, Linda Moore. It will see you as a Linda Moore, and you're changing the trajectory of children's lives right now. In fact, I have to say that I very recently, not to put you on blast, but very recently saw a video that made me cry that you posted about, and I'm going to try to describe it in a way that our listeners can appreciate the power of it. But it was a long line of students, little sweet elementary muffins. You were sort of in the center of this line, and you were kind of walking out, the sunset, right? The students are walking and you're walking with them. And then at some point, you stop walking and they keep walking, and you like
Yes.
wave them on into their futures. And I'm like, oh my God, Madison, that is the sweetest thing I have ever seen
I
in
can't
my
claim
days.
all credit for it. It was a TikTok trend that was going around.
But it was your students. And
It was my
oh my
students.
gosh, it
Oh,
was
what a great
so
class.
sweet. And so I look at your students and I think of all the classrooms of students you're impacting right now, you and
I
your
sure hope
colleagues.
so.
Oh my gosh, I know that you are. I know that you are. And to take that sort of full circle perspective for someone who changed your life, who gave you the opportunity to take a breath and believe in yourself, right? For you then to be able to do that for classrooms of students under your care. And like you said, maybe years down the road, you've got that in your back pocket. Reading specialist impacts even more students, right?
Goal.
And that's the goal. And so I love just hearing that you're using, I guess, what you have built here at Longwood, not just in content, but you are using the connections and the power
Always.
of relationships to make a difference in people's lives. And I am here for it. So
Absolutely.
please keep posting sappy videos about that because I
Well,
love
you can
it.
thank the wonderful paraprofessional who works in my classroom, Liz Rutherford.
Thank you, Liz.
She had that idea, and I said, yes, let's film it.
It was so good. It was so good. Okay. So you transition then. So kind of going back to to your sort of full circle moments, because there are several of them, but you transition from being supported to now being the supporter.
Yes.
You're now hosting practicum students.
Yes.
Those like the terrified, I don't know what to do. You're that safety net for
Absolutely.
students now. And so what has surprised you in this shift, right? From being the one who is being mentored to being the mentor. How does that feel?
My mentor, Jeff, said numerous times while I was placed with him that mentoring new teachers made him a better teacher.
I believe it.
I did not understand what he meant. I thought it was nice,
Yeah.
but I was like, okay, I don't get that, but whatever. I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. It makes me so much more reflective. And that says something because I feel like I'm typically a pretty reflective person
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
But reflecting on my own practices, thinking about the why behind every single move I make, like minuscule things that I don't even realize I'm doing in the moment. But when I'm watching somebody else do it, thinking, oh, I would have done this thing for this reason. And it's just second nature to me now. But thinking about those things keeps them at the forefront and makes me better every single day. It is the greatest thing. I so love working in Cumberland for a million other reasons, but one of the big things that makes me love working there so much is the opportunity so often to work with pre-service teachers, partnership students, practicum, student teachers. I've worked with all of them now. I think I've had 7 or 8 placed in my classroom, and it is one of my favorite parts of my job.
And it gives me hope for the future, knowing that they are learning from someone
Well,
who's such a
thanks.
powerhouse. And so, no, thank you. Thank you for that hard work, because it's not easy.
It's not.
You know,
it's
it's
not.
a lot where you're, like you said, you don't necessarily deconstruct everything that you do in a given class period.
Absolutely.
But once you're watching it in action, you're trying to be thoughtful and supportive, but also provide some feedback that's going to help strengthen them as educators, but also as humans. And so
And also prioritizing my students' learning too.
Absolutely.
Like walking that line is very challenging, but it's
Right.
fun too.
Yeah, because you have mentioned that you love coaching adults.
I do.
And honestly, it's such a skill, and not everyone loves that. In fact, so many people in the field of education in particular, I've talked with lots of folks, and that's kind of my background too before I came to higher ed. It's just like, let me tell you something, it's the grown people. Like, give me the kids, but them grown people. And so when you think about the opportunity to coach other adults, you have to have some finesse, right? Like it's definitely a dance, right?
It is a dance.
Sometimes kids are like, all right, because you said so. But adults are like, what are you talking about? And you have to be very thoughtful about presentation and, how it's going to be received. So tell me a little bit about how you think maybe your graduate program in particular gave you that skill to be able to coach adults.
So one of the things that I enjoyed most during the RLL program was diving into the neurobiology, the neuroscience of what's happening in a person's brain as they're learning to read. It is very complicated and very fascinating.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love now is, particularly when I'm interacting with parents, I get to share just a little bit, just enough to get them excited about it and interested and to get them to buy into what I'm about to say. And then I get to share the practical application.
Yeah.
And why does that matter for what I'm about to teach you about helping your child at home? And especially for parents of students who are struggling, I think that really, number one, it gives them a little bit of confidence in the strategies that we're using at school. It gives them confidence in me as a teacher that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not just teaching it this way because it sounds nice and pretty, but because it's actually based in scientific research.
Yeah.
But watching light bulbs turn on for adults, for parents, is just as rewarding as it is watching them turn on for kids.
Yeah.
And especially when you have that moment with a parent, you're explaining, this is what your child is struggling with, this is how we're going to help them, this is why, and them going, oh my gosh, that makes sense. And then actually seeing them go home and practice with their child and work on those things and take the ideas that I've given them, and then seeing the impact on the student in the classroom and their test scores, there's nothing like it.
Well, and they've put so much trust in you.
Yes.
You've been able to develop the relationships with the parents, with the students, and you do know what you're talking about, daggone it, right?
Yes,
Like
I
I know a
do.
thing or two. Let me tell you, and being able to support that, I think is just, it's incredible. And I agree with you. Being able to talk to, especially if there's a struggling student, to talk to a parent of a struggling student and provide real, tangible guidance that's not just another thing to do or another box to check. It's something that's meaningful and valuable, and here's why, and be able to have that conversation in a way that changes their perspective to be able to support the student. It is pretty beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Okay. All right. So we've been talking about a lot. I could sit here and talk to you 4 days, Madison. You were so much fun. But I want to kind of come back a little bit to the idea about the power of people, because you've talked about a lot of different folks along the way who have impacted you, who have made you think about yourself in powerful, positive ways. And so I'm wondering if you might share with me the people who right now are still lifting you up, because you've talked about a lot of those along the way, all the way back to your elementary years. But who are the people lifting you up today?
I can't believe that we've been talking for so long and my parents haven't come up yet. My mom.
I'm just kidding. I only say that because I know her mom and she's amazing.
She
But
is amazing.
But yeah,
Objectively speaking, my mom's amazing.
she is.
So my mom works in the Office of Special Education Family Engagement at the Virginia Department of Education, and she has worked in schools in a multitude of capacities throughout her career. And my dad is a school counselor, and he has been in that role for, I think this is his 40th year. So I come from teachers.
Yeah.
My, dinner table conversations growing up were about school and teachers and faculty and all of the things. Neither one of them pushed me into education at all. My dad, as a matter of fact, encouraged me to do pretty much anything else. However, he very quickly noticed that it was a calling for me. I had been bitten by the bug and there was no stopping me. And he has been very supportive, as has my mom, every single step of the way. And I also know that I'm in a very unique position of not just being able to call my parents for life advice, but for work advice. Like, hey, I have a student doing this thing. How do you recommend I work on that?
What a great support network.
What a great support network. So definitely my parents, Tracy Lee and F.W. Lewis, if I didn't say. I also really value the relationship that I have with many of my professors at Longwood. Dr. Patty Hastings in particular, she taught me, and she taught lots of the pre-service teachers that I worked with. So getting to have her come into my classroom and to her and talk about program changes and research and all of the things over the years has been wonderful. Dr. Wendy Snow from RLL just got a text message from me not too long ago with a question that I had, and she typed pages and pages of information back to me and was genuinely excited to do so. So that was very wonderful, of course. And then Lauren Bryant is one of my coworkers. She's a Longwood alum, and she works in the classroom right next door to me. We've been on the same team for all of my 6 years so far, and she is so willing all of the time to share knowledge, share resources, a listening ear, anything that you could need as a teacher. She's there for you.
You have to have one of those.
I could keep going.
Keep a work bestie.
I could keep going and going and going. There's so many people. I'm sure there's so many that I haven't mentioned, but I'm very blessed to have the network that I have.
Well, it sounds like you have a very strong, supportive network. And I think that that's something that Longwood does naturally, because you mentioned a lot of those folks have Longwood specific ties. And I think that family, that I don't know, when you walk into this place, it doesn't matter if you're an undergraduate or a graduate, the people care from you from day one. And then once you graduate, and we just celebrated commencement, and folks walk across the stage, and I think you haven't heard the last from us.
No.
You will keep reaching out to professors, you will keep the connections with your colleagues, and those people stay so incredibly in your corner decades from now.
Even President Reevely. I mean, I think Sadie Hodges has been on this podcast before. She and I lived together for a few years after we finished grad school, and I will never forget, I think we were sophomores. We heard President Reevely say that he had an open door policy. So we marched our little selves right up to his office and said to his administrative assistant, "Hi, we're here to see President Reevely." And she said, "Do you have an appointment?" No. We heard he had an open door policy and we wanted to say hello. And even now, I see him in Food Lion every once in a while, and he stops and hugs me and calls me by name. And that's what Longwood's all about.
That's what Longwood is all about. All right. So if you were to think about current RLL students, or maybe even future RLL students, right? So people aspiring to be a reading specialist, what advice would you give them about building relationships, and not just sort of surface level ones, but building relationships that really sustain their careers, but also their sense of purpose?
That's a great question. I have so many thoughts about that. The first one would be decide who you are and who you want to be. And then start looking for the people who have lots of those traits. They don't have to be exactly who you want to be, but who have some of those traits. Watch them, but not just from afar. You matter, especially at Longwood. You matter, and your opinion matters, and your questions matter, and your worries matter. All of you matters. And not being afraid to go to those people and say, hey, I really admire XYZ about you. Can you tell me how you got so good at that? Or asking them questions or saying, hey, I kind of had this opinion, but now I'm starting to wonder if that was wrong. Can we talk about that? I think that's really important. But also in doing that, remembering that you don't have to be a carbon copy of somebody you admire to be inspired by them. I tried for a really long time. The first couple years of teaching, I was trying really hard to be a carbon copy of Jeff Hamilton, and it just wasn't going to happen. We are two very different people, but that doesn't mean that I can't still take the things that I learned from teaching with him and make it match me. And I think being inspired by someone is different than trying to be them. That makes sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that's really great advice, because I think sometimes people want to, in the spirit of getting better or growing professionally, emulate someone else in a way that, you lose that sense of yourself. And you are wonderful and you have a lot to give. And I think picking up characteristics and learning different tricks and strategies along the way, I think that that's something that you certainly want to do, but also recognizing that, like, you're a pretty powerful person yourself, right? And sometimes that takes a little time to build that confidence. Like you said, it was a couple of years where you were trying to figure out where you fit and who you were. But I love that advice. And I think that's such powerful advice. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope whoever needs to hear that just picks it right up and runs with it, because that's fantastic. So I guess I'm wondering too, because I remember this, Madison, but if you were to talk to the Madison who first stepped on Longwood's campus, what would you say to her?
I've thought about that a lot, and I don't know that my answer is very profound or even very lengthy. I think I would just say, you did everything that you wanted to do. What's next? What's going to be next?
That is profound, Madison.
And I don't know that I even know the answer.
And that's also okay.
Yeah. I think that younger Madison didn't really think much farther than becoming a teacher. It's the thing I wanted to do my whole life. So I think I would challenge her to think about what might be next. If there is anything next. Maybe there is no next. Maybe this is it.
I guarantee there's a whole lot more coming from Madison Lewis.
There might be, but also I'm really happy where I am.
Yeah.
And I think that might be okay too.
I think you're right.
So we'll see.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so if you can look back on your journey, much of where you are today comes down to people who showed up at just the right moment. Okay. And you've mentioned lots of people who have sort of just appeared in the most random times, right?
Yes.
And I think that happens to a lot of us. We're not, like you said, you look back and you think, Madison of yesteryear, you didn't know what was next. You didn't know who would walk into your life and who might challenge you to think differently or try something new.
Very true.
So what do you think might be next? You said, like, this might be enough. I'm not sure what's next. When you're thinking about, let's say, the next 5 years, 10 years, where do you see yourself going?
I don't know if I have an answer to that right now. My mom was being complimented at one point, and somebody was saying what an impact she had had on me. And she said something that has stuck with me. I thought it was funny, but also true. She said, "Thank you, but Madison was a group project."
I love that.
And I think that's so honest and so real and so true. And I think that so much about my journey to this point has been about, when you think about the impact that people have on you, a lot of times that doesn't just happen to you. You have to look for and notice and appreciate the impact that people are having on you and let that guide you. And I think at this point, I've been guided to teaching kindergarten, and I really, really like it. And I'm also very open to being guided beyond that.
Yeah.
So I talk about it with people, and my principal, Wendy Tillett, just asked me during my end of year evaluation the same question recently, and we talked about it a little bit. And my assistant principal, Pamela Stepko, who is a Milken educator and very awesome, has also talked with me a little bit about what might come next. And I don't think we've landed on an answer other than keeping windows and doors open.
As you should.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love the idea of us all being group projects.
Yes. Isn't that lovely?
Gosh, that is so, come on, Tracy. That is so good. And she didn't know she was going to end up on this podcast in such a way. Just wait till she listens to it. But I love that idea because it goes back to everything that we've said here, what we're talking about this entire season. We don't live in a vacuum, sealed silo. Like, we grow because of the people around us. We celebrate one another. People celebrate us. We grow, we thrive, and we do that with the people around us. And so we are all group projects. And I think that is the perfect way to put it. And I am so very thankful that you have been part of my group project today.
And you've been part of mine.
Because you've helped me grow today. Just hearing your pathway, hearing your story, hearing the people who have made a powerful impact on the person you are today and the person you will become, because we don't stop growing. We don't stop learning. And so even if you're just like, I don't know, TBD, that's a good place to be.
Yep. I think it's a fun place to be too. It's a little daunting, but fun.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Madison, thank you so much for talking with me today, for reminding all of us that we go to Longwood, we do great things. We get our undergraduate, we get our graduate degrees, we go out and we do amazing things. But it's not just, education's not just about the credentials, right? It's about the people. It's the power of the people that you get to meet. And I love that you were able to share the connections with your community, with your school, with your colleagues. And so thank you so much for everything that you've shared today.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. We hope today's conversation reminded you of the people who shaped your journey and the impact you have on others every single day. Because when one person chooses to lead, mentor, teach, advocate, or serve, the ripple effect reaches far beyond what we can see. At Longwood, we believe leadership is in our blood, but it's strengthened by the people around us. Head to our website to learn more about our graduate programs and professional endorsements. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more stories that celebrate the power of people. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.